Hello everybody, today I have a very unique adapter to share with all of you. It's a very big Circline adapter. I've never seen one this big before. Of course, we've all seen the 22 watt Circline adapters. We've seen some 30 watt versions that are slightly bigger diameter, but I've never seen a 32 watt Circline adapter. Now, GE did have an offering that was about this size back in the day. I think it was a two-way or a single way, and the bulb was attached to its own mounting hardware that slid onto a magnetic preheat ballast. Now, I don't have one of those here with me to demonstrate alongside this today, but I do believe that this is slightly bigger than that because this does work with 32 watt, 1 foot diameter Circline bulbs. This is a very unique adapter. So, it's a Damar, or Damar, whatever you want to pronounce their name. It does say here that it is 30 watt, and it is 6400K, so it's a very strong daylight color, but it is a replaceable bulb. And I have tried these adapters, these, yes, I found 2 of these at the thrift store, actually, with an actual 32 watt Circline bulb, and it works absolutely fine. So I'm sure this bulb that is fitted into this adapter is also a 32 watt bulb that they're under driving at 30 watts. So let's take a quick look around the adapter here. The first thing you'll notice is its small ballasting compartment. And this is electronic. It's not preheat, unfortunately, but just the size of this adapter was so cool, I had to get them. Of course, if it was preheat, that would be even more awesome, but this in and of itself is a very unique find. Now, the other unique thing here is that it has a 3-spoke model instead of just 2 like a 22 watt Circline adapter would have. In fact, here is a 22 watt preheat Circline, and you can get an idea of the diameter difference here. Now, these would be the 2 bulbs you'd find most common in the dual Circline fixtures that you'd see in kitchens and places like that, where you'd have a 22 watt bulb and a 32 watt bulb. I'm sure there are some adapters out there that are screw-in-able and use both of these bulbs. I want to say I've seen pictures of that online. I've also seen some of these where it's 2 bulbs together, but it's a smaller diameter. It's not the pretty typical T10 or the more common T9 size for, well, these bulbs. So that is a 22 watt version, just to have a little bit of a comparison. How do you change the bulb on this thing? Well, we have spring-loaded arms here. All 3 of them are, even the one that has the plug in the end. So all you got to do is just release one of these, start pushing in on one of them, and it'll kind of pop itself out. And the plug isn't a very strong plug. It just kind of holds the pins in place. Now, I've noticed on one of these adapters, and this appears to be the one of these pins here likes to push out. It works fine. It just likes to come out when you take the bulb out. Now, the other thing here is that it likes to pop out as well. These are just held in place. So let's push that back in there. You can see they're spring-loaded. And if you pop this out, you get these little clips here that just hold the arm in place. And you got your little spring. And inside, you can see some components of the electronic ballast. So we'll put our spring back in there. Put our arm back in. And any of these arms could house the plug. As you can see, there's a little notch here to help hold the plug in place. So you could put it down any of these. That's why there's a hole in any of them. I'm sure just a universal design in manufacturing. It does have some screws here that we could take apart. So you know what? Why not? Let's go ahead and see if we can take the top off of this and see what we have inside. This seems easy enough to do without destroying the adapter. Okay, so there's our cover. And here's what's inside. LDS DEQ 120 volt. Okay, do you think that'll come out? Oh, sure enough it will. Okay. Now, I don't know how long some of these wires are we have to play with here. So let me push this socket in, and maybe we'll have enough give in some of these wires to get it out a little further. So there's our ballast. Again, not the best way to look at it. Where's the other end of the 120? Okay, I see. Sorry. So here's one side of our contact. The other side is hidden over here. And then we have our lamp pins here. Now I wonder if I can get some type of helpful light here on the situation so you can get a little idea of what we're looking at inside. Pretty standard CFL electronics, I'd assume. I mean, it doesn't look anything too fancy special to me. Okay, well, let's set this back into place. There is a fuse in there, so at least it has some type of safety going on if something were to go wrong. And then we just have our cover here. And I'm going to try my best to line this up so we can get our screws back in. Now with our screws back in, let's go ahead and fit our lamp back on. Again, the lamp here doesn't have anything on it as to markings of wattage or absolutely anything. So it has to be the original one that came with it because the specifications would have been on here. But it does rotate, so you could use it in a standard 32 watt fixture, I'm sure, just fine. So we'll fit the first end here with the plug. Let's get it in there. And then you just kind of hold it, get one side started, and then push in the other, and it'll kind of center itself. Now it's finally time to get this thing turned on. So let's screw it into our socket here. Isn't that fun to screw in? And let's turn it on. Instant start, nothing too fancy there. It doesn't really have much of a hum either. So we're currently at 118.1 volts, 0.32 amps, 23.6 watts. Boy, this is really underdriving this thing. If this is a 32 watt bulb and we're only getting the flip to those numbers, 23.8 watts. Yeah, the light output here is not going to be too anything amazing. And we got 0.62 in the power factor department. Now let's turn off our lights. It is a very blue daylight. I'm going to hold this thing up at our 2 foot mark here. Let's see, I want to center it the best I can right at our 2 foot. There we go. And we're getting about 820 lux or so. So, I mean, not too bad, but I'm sure an actual magnetically ballasted 32 watt Circline would be way, way brighter. Yeah, 23.9 watts. We're not even hitting 24 watts. Okay. Now, out of curiosity, let's turn this off and let's demonstrate the fact that you can use a 32 watt Circline bulb. I have one right here. This is a pretty standard GE kitchen and bath. It's their warm white version. Circline bulb here, 1 foot diameter. And let's go ahead and remove this daylighty bulb. And it's just loose. There it goes. And we got, oh, the pin stayed in that time. So let's turn our plug here. And we'll fit it in there. Get one of these arms in and get our last arm in. Does have some pretty strong springs going on, but as you can see, it fits. No issues in getting a standard 32 watt Circline bulb to fit in here. That's why I called this video a 32 watt adapter, because a 30 watt adapter, that's a standard slightly smaller diameter, but this takes 32 watt bulbs, even though it's running them, you know, pitifully. Let's turn this on. Okay. So it got the ends glowing there a little bit, and then it got it turned on. Let's turn off our lights again. Okay, so this one is pulling a little bit more in the watts department. Well, it was, okay, there, 24.2 was the highest I saw. And this is actually dimmer. It was touching about 600 lux, but this is dimmer than the daylight one. Okay. But it just goes to show that you definitely can fit a standard 32 watt Circline in this particular adapter. So I'm going to remove this bulb one more time, and we'll put our original one back in so that we can get readings from that. Just set that aside for right now. Let's put our original bulb back in. Well, if we can get it to fit, there we go. Nice. And we'll turn it back on. Let's turn off our light, and we'll make sure our meter is up and ready to go. So I'm going to hold this tube right next to it here. Let's see what we get. There we go. The spectrum of the bulb. The CRI of the bulb. And the white balance of the bulb. So it does say 6500K, which is around the 6400 that they say on the adapter here. Yeah, very blue daylighty. But I like the fact that you can use it with standard 32 watt Circlines. It's a great way to test them without needing to go to an actual fixture. Because again, I've never seen an actual adapter like this before, let alone an electronic one. Maybe back in the day there would have been a screw-in adapter one with a magnetic ballast. I've found that adapter that goes onto a 4-inch globe fitting that's preheat on the stairs down here, but that's not necessarily a screw-in adapter. It would have had a little adapter and then you plug it into it, but an adapter like this where you don't need a whole fixture, so unique. Let's turn the lights back on for the last time. Get some real preheat action there for a second. And there we go. Our Damar, or Damar, 32 watt Circline adapter. As always, I do hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, be sure to give it a like down below and leave a comment. I do enjoy reading all of your comments. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more great videos like this one. Also check out my secondary channel Merkove and subscribe over there for more behind the scenes and alternative content. Of course, check out the other videos here on this screen, and as always, thank you very much for watching.